Hey everyone, and welcome to today's BiggerPockets webinar. Today we're going to be talking about the BRRRR strategy and how it can be used to supercharge your investing, because it's really a tool to allow your money to go further and be really efficient in the way you deploy your capital. If you guys don't know me, my name is Dave Meyer. I've been investing for more than 14 years, and I'm very excited to share my experience with you, with all my experience about investing, but particularly with the BRRRR strategy during today's webinar. Let's quickly go over what we're going to talk about today. First thing on our agenda is we're going to learn why experienced investors tend to love the BRRRR strategy. Next, we're going to talk about if the BRRRR strategy is right for you, because it's not a strategy that works for everyone, but I think you'll see that it can be really powerful. And today you'll learn whether this is a tactic that you should be exploring. And then lastly, I'm also going to demo a couple of tools and show you a few resources that I use to make finding these types of deals and executing on these types of deals much more efficient and really easy. So if BRRRR is right for you, I'll show you how to actually get started landing those deals. Before we get into today's content, I also want to let you know that we do have a special invitation for you that you're going to want to stick around for. At the end of this presentation, I'm going to be extending a special offer to those of you who want access to tools, training, community that are going to help you reach your real estate investing goals faster. So more on that at the end of the webinar. Back to the agenda today. I just want to say that the goal here by the end of this webinar is you're going to know whether or not the BRRRR strategy is right for you. And you're going to have all the right tips, you're going to have the right tricks and the right systems to find and analyze these BRRRR deals in pretty much any market in the country. So that's sort of what we're going to cover. But let's just take a minute before we jump in to set the scene and talk about real estate investing in general. Now, if you're here at this webinar, you likely understand that owning investment properties, doing the BRRRR strategy, investing in real estate can improve your financial situation. It can offer financial freedom, which empowers you to spend your time how you want and with who you want and doing what you want. It also can offer really sort of secondary advantages that not as many people talk about, like tax advantages that can be really beneficial to your financial situation as well. Now, these things like financial freedom, cash flow, equity, tax advantages, all the things that real estate investors talk about are really beneficial. But to me, they are really just a means to an end, right? Like no one gets into real estate investing because they love building equity. Most likely they have something in mind that they want to do with that equity, something perhaps bigger or more important with their life that they're going to use their cash flow for or there's tax advantages for. For a lot of people, particularly in the BiggerPockets sphere, that thing is financial independence. And this is just the idea that you can earn enough money to spend your time how you want, and you have that security of not worrying about what happens if you lose your job, or perhaps you want to work part-time or quit your job altogether. Or for some people, it's about generational wealth and creating a better financial situation, not just for yourself, but for your family and for future generations. Other people just want to build a financial fortress that makes them secure in knowing that they have what they need right now and well into the future. Whatever those reasons are for you, just know that real estate investing can help you improve your financial situation and achieve your financial goals. Now, if there are all these great reasons and real estate can help you with all these financial objectives, the question is like, why are more people not doing it? Why doesn't everyone get into real estate investing? Well, there are common hesitations that people come up against, and they are real challenges and roadblocks that you need to overcome. For example, I hear a lot of people who are worried that they don't have enough money available to invest in real estate. And that makes sense because real estate investing can be sort of a capital intensive process. But today we're going to talk about strategies you can use to start building your savings and strategies that use your equity and the cash that you do have more efficiently. That's one of the great things about the BRRRR strategy. Another common hesitation we hear is people are afraid of losing everything in the wrong deal or losing money by selecting a bad property. That can happen, but in reality, if you use the right tools and the right tactics, the ones we're going to talk about today, to plan ahead for unexpected financial hiccups and to set aside the right money in case something breaks, the risk of losing a lot of money on real estate is actually a lot less than most people think it is. And I know these hesitations because I have had them too. I still have them. Even though I've been doing this for 14 years, when I buy deals, I worry a bit about whether this is the right deal. But ultimately, I've learned to trust the right processes and tools to tell me what good deals are and if I'm making the right decisions. And that really just comes down to one, like I said, the right tools. If you have the right calculators, the right processes for finding deals, everything gets a lot easier and a lot less risky. Two, the right education. When you know what you're doing, when you learn from experienced investors, it really reduces your risk and increases your chance of success. And three, the right people. If you find the right lender, you find a great agent, you network with other investors who can teach you what they know, that's going to really improve your ability to execute on the strategies we're talking about today. Now, let me just take a step back and introduce myself if you guys don't know me and why I'm here teaching this webinar today. Again, my name is Dave Meyer. I've been investing in real estate for 14 years now, mostly in residential. I do some commercial investing as well. I also host the On the Market podcast. I've written a couple books for BiggerPockets called Real Estate by the Numbers and Start with Strategy. But more important to our conversation today, other than, what I do day to day, is that I too was once a newbie to real estate investing. I also didn't really know how to start at one point, and I actually invested for 6 years on my own before I even discovered that BiggerPockets was a thing. It's funny now because I've worked for BiggerPockets for 8 years, but I was investing before I even knew about BiggerPockets. And it was a very inefficient time in my investing career. I didn't really know what I was doing. But luckily, once I discovered BiggerPockets, I was able to scale a lot faster and my portfolio became a lot more efficient because I learned the three things I just told you about. I learned how to use the right tools, how to get the right education, and to network with the right people. And lucky for you guys, you all get to use these tools right from the start. You don't have to go through that inefficient process that I did for 6 years. Now, I'm not the only one who uses these tactics. BiggerPockets actually has more than 3 million members now, and a lot of them, tens of thousands of them, have used these tools, education, and networking to grow their own portfolios and to find financial freedom. Here's a quick example I found in the forums recently from someone named Logan. Logan said that 6 years ago, he didn't have a clue about real estate investing or how to invest. But because of the community and education he's found at BiggerPockets, he's been able to build a hugely successful real estate portfolio. This is not just me. This is not just Logan. You can go in the forums, join the community, and see that this is happening for people all over the place. I think one of the common things that successful investors through BiggerPockets have figured out is that it doesn't actually take that many properties to achieve financial freedom. I know a lot of people are out there on social media saying they have hundreds of deals or thousands of doors, but that is not necessary. You don't need that to achieve financial freedom. What you need actually is just a couple of really good deals executed properly, a portfolio that you manage carefully, and that can bring you to financial freedom. But guys, it is going to take work. Real estate is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It takes work and effort over a sustained period of time. But if you're willing to put in that work, you can get started on the path to financial freedom today. So let's jump in. All right, so first things first, we are talking about the BRRRR method today, but let's talk about what that actually means. It's an acronym. The B stands for buy. That's obviously the first step. The first R stands for rehabbing and renovating that property. So with the BRRRR method, you're not looking for properties that are in perfect condition. You are looking for ones that you can add value to through a rehab. The second R stands for renting it out. So once you're done with your rehab, you go and find tenants and rent out the property. The third R stands for refinance, and this is sort of the key thing that distinguishes a BRRRR strategy is that once you've rented it out, you refinance it to pull capital out that you can use later. We're going to talk about that a lot today. And then the last one is repeat, and that is the process. You buy it, you renovate it, you rent it out, you refinance it to pull capital out, and then you use that capital that you've pulled out to repeat this process over and over and over again. And the reason experienced investors like the BRRRR method is one, because value add equals ROI. This is something we'll get into more, but when you find a property that is not at its highest and best use and needs renovation or rehab, this is a great way to generate a positive return on your investment. The second reason is that you get the most out of your capital. It is a very efficient way to invest in real estate. And by being efficient, you can increase the velocity of your investing. We'll talk about this, but hopefully you can see that when you invest your money and then you're able to pull some of that out. So let's just say you invest $100,000 into a deal, but after the refinance, maybe you only have to keep $30,000 or $40,000 in that deal, and you can take $60,000 or $70,000 out and invest it into that next deal. It's super efficient. It's more efficient than investing $100,000 in a deal, keeping all that money in deal one, and then having to save up another $100,000 to go into that second deal. You can actually just reuse some of the money from your first deal into the second deal, and that's why it's more efficient. And it is a great way to supercharge your way to financial freedom because it takes advantage of really all the elements of real estate investing. You can get cash flow out of it, you get appreciation, you get forced appreciation, you get tax benefits, and when you add all of those individual elements together, it is the most efficient way, the most effective way to build wealth through real estate investing. So the question is, I said at the beginning, like BRRRR is not right for everyone. So let's talk about who BRRRR is right for and who should probably skip out on it. So things to consider when you're going through a BRRRR is number one, are you going to rehab or will you hire it out? So if you have the skills to do the rehab yourself, even better, you can do that with the BRRRR method, particularly if you're a contractor or you're really handy. But you really need to know what you're doing if you're going to do a rehab, because you might think you're saving money doing a rehab, but if you're not good at it, it's actually more cost effective to hire it out. So think through whether you're going to do it yourself or hire it out, because that will matter when we get to the deal analysis part in just a little bit here. Second, BRRRR requires really good planning skills to find a deal. Like you need to be able to analyze deals really well. And I'm going to teach you a little bit about that, but you need to be confident in your ability to analyze deals and to plan rehabs well. You need to be able to estimate how much it's going to cost to rehab a deal before you buy it. And so those are two things you need to consider. And I do just want to be honest about some of the downsides to BRRRR or some of the challenges that come up with it, just so you're aware of them up front before you jump into one of these. So here's a list of potential things that could go wrong. I'm going to go through these in just a second, but you have to use a short-term loan to go through the first rehab. Number two, there's a risk of a low appraisal after the rehab, which means you won't be able to pull as much money out. The third is rehabs sometimes don't go well, and if it goes over budget, that could impact your returns. Fourth is the seasoning period. For some loan products, you can't just refinance them immediately. They have to go through a period of 6 or 12 months before you can rehab them, and that can impact your returns. Fifth is because you're doing a refinance, you're getting two separate loans in a short period of time, and that can increase your closing costs. And lastly, you just have to do a rehab, which some people don't want to do. So there obviously are some cons and downsides and obstacles to the BRRRR method. So does that mean that you shouldn't consider BRRRR or you should just ignore this strategy? No, that is not the reason that I am sharing this with you. I'm sharing these cons, one, because it is important to be forthright about the risks in real estate investing, and two, because once you understand what the risks are, then you can navigate around them. I think a lot of people avoid talking about risks because they're worried about them, but I think it's important to name these risks because that's how you navigate around them and succeed with this strategy despite some of these challenges. And the reality is that this BRRRR method and using this strategy has helped me achieve financial freedom. It's helped a lot of other people do it. And I believe that anyone here with the right techniques, the right skills can do it as well. So let's just go through, how do we work around some of these challenges with the BRRRR? And remember, every strategy, not just BRRRR, has downsides and strategies. We're just talking about the ones that exist for BRRRR. So let's talk about that short-term loan first. Here's some strategies you can use. Maybe don't use a conventional loan. So a really popular way of using BRRRR is a home equity line of credit. Sometimes this is called a HELOC, but if you own your primary residence, you can get a line of credit on it and use that to fund the rehab costs or the acquisition costs so that you're not actually taking out two conventional loans in a short period of time. So that's a great way to get a short-term loan. The other thing is using cash. So if you have enough cash saved up to fund your acquisition or some of the rehab costs, that can be really effective. And just so you know, you don't have to only use your own cash. This is a really common period where people bring on partners, right? So you go and maybe 2, 3, 4 investors pool their money together to fund the acquisition and the rehab costs before the refinance process. So that is something that you can consider. The second risk that we talked about is a low appraisal after rehab. If you're not super familiar, basically the way BRRRR works is that you invest money, and say you buy a property for $100,000. You invest $25,000 into it, and you hope that it comes out to a value of $150,000, right? So you've invested $125,000, but you've gotten the value to $150,000, which is great. You've just built equity. But in order to refinance and pull money out, you have to get an appraisal from the bank. And so sometimes those appraisals, maybe the appraiser that you get that day says it's only worth $135,000 instead of $150,000, and that will impact how much money you can pull out. One way to do that is plan your rehab well and plan your buy well so that you have good comparables. You understand what properties are selling because that's what the appraiser is going to use to value your property in the future. And you can do that. You can control part of that before you buy a property. Second is you can actually contest appraisals and ask for a second appraisal. I've personally done this more than once, and I've seen that appraisals come back pretty different. They've been differences of not just $20,000. I've seen differences of $50,000 or even more on some properties I've refinanced in the past. And so definitely talk to your bank and consider contesting appraisals if you get a lower appraisal than you were expecting after your rehab. Third one is rehab ends over budget. This is really where experience and working with great contractors comes in. If you're able to plan ahead, build in a lot of contingencies into your rehab budget, this is going to really help. A contingency is basically you go in, you look at all of your rehab costs, say it's going to be $20,000. Then just say, you know what, maybe I'm going to be wrong and I'm going to add $5,000 to my rehab budget. I don't even know where it's going to go, but I'm going to put in this miscellaneous line item here so that if something comes up, and things do come up in real estate investing, especially in rehabs, that you're planning for that ahead. So definitely do that. For the seasoning, again, we talked about what that is, but basically you can work with specific lenders that don't have seasoning periods, or you can consider using that HELOC or using cash like we talked about before. And then the last is 2 potential closing costs. But if you work with the right lender, you're going to be able to get around several of these things, right? We talked about the short-term loan, seasoning, potential closing costs as all some of the challenges. But if you work with a lender who's experienced with the BRRRR method, they might be able to help you out and figure out the right loan structures, the right set of loans to reduce your closing costs, avoid the risk of having a short-term loan or seasoning periods, and get you the right loan products that are going to reduce your risk for the duration of your project. All right, so hopefully you're sold. Like, yes, there are challenges, but there are also huge opportunities in BRRRR. The amount of cash flow you can generate, the equity that you can build is huge. So if you're sold on this strategy, as so many investors are, let's talk about how to get you one. There are 3 steps to buying your first or next BRRRR property. The first is finding the deal. The second is analyzing that deal to make sure it's going to be a great deal for you in the long run. And the third is funding it. Let's take these one by one. First step, finding the deals. Our surveys internally here at BiggerPockets actually show that the number 2 biggest perceived challenge in real estate investing is finding a deal. And I said perceived challenge because finding deals does not have to be something that you are overwhelmed by. There are plenty of ways to get good deals. First and foremost is networking. If you know a lot of good agents, you know other investors, you know lenders, you know title companies in your area, they might find out about deals before they hit the MLS, and you might be able to get one before it's listed on the market if you work with these people and you have a strong network. The second option is driving for dollars or direct marketing. This is a strategy where you proactively identify properties and try and contact the seller before they list it and see if you can work out a mutually agreeable sales price before you face any competition. And the third is working with wholesalers. These are people who sort of do the networking for you. They do driving for dollars for you. If you don't have time to do those strategies, because they are time intensive, wholesalers will do that for you, but it does come at a price. You have to pay the wholesaler an assignment fee for the convenience of them finding deals for you. Now, all these are a great way to find deals, but they can be time consuming and they can be expensive, which is why my personal favorite way to find deals is to work with an investor-friendly agent. And I know that's not the coolest or the sexiest way to find a deal, but I have found the vast majority of the deals I've bought on market using an investor-friendly agent. Now, an investor-friendly agent is not just any kind of agent. These are local market experts who understand the neighborhoods where you should consider investing in. They understand the numbers and they think like an investor, right? These are people who hopefully own some investment properties themselves. They understand the importance of rent, of appreciation, of value add potential, and can really help you think through what of all the possible deals you can do is the right one for you. And I know there's a lot of narrative out there that there's no good deals on market and that you have to go off market deals. That is not true. Off market deals are good, but I'm just letting you know the two rental properties I have bought this year in 2024, I have found on market using an investor-friendly agent. So this is a great strategy. And if you agree and you want to follow this strategy for finding deals, you're probably wondering, how do you find an agent with the knowledge to help me acquire my BRRRR property? Well, it's very easy. Like I said earlier, it's all about having the right tools, guys. And the right tool here is free. Just go to biggerpockets.com/agent, put in a little bit of information about yourself, what you're looking for, where you want to invest, and you're going to get matched with a great investor-friendly agent who can help you find deals completely for free. So don't overthink this. If you want to get good lead flow here, just go to biggerpockets.com/agent. Okay, so that was step one. And remember, step one was finding deals. And now that you've done that, we can move on to step two, which is how to analyze the deals and leads that you have coming in. And this is important because, I've said this is how you find deals through an agent, but that's probably not the best way to describe it. The reality is that you actually are getting leads from your agent or driving for dollars or networking, because these are just ideas, right? They're properties that someone suggests to you that could be a good deal. But not every lead that you see, not every property that you look at is going to be a good deal. You have to actually analyze each property that you see to figure out which one the numbers work for. And that's what we mean when we talk about deal analysis. Now, what makes a good BRRRR deal? So like when you're doing your analysis, what should you be looking for? Number one is you should be buying under market value because, right, these are properties that need rehab. They are not at their highest at best use. So you can't be paying full market value for a property that is going to require additional investment to go into it to get it up to fair market value, right? Number two is you want to look for things like the 1% rule or the 70% rule. 70% rule means that basically when you're rehabbing a property, you don't want to pay any more than 70% of the after repair value. Just as an example, maybe you are looking to buy a property, rehab it, and eventually it will be worth $200,000. That means that you can't pay more than 70% of $200,000, or otherwise known as $140,000 for the property, because you're going to need that budget, that $60,000 cushion, one, to pay for the rehab cost, and two, because that is your profit. So you got to make sure to not pay more than 70%. The third thing is, depending on where you live, there's going to be different things that you can do during your rehab to add value. In certain areas, finishing out a basement is a great way to do it. In other areas, it's really about curb appeal and improving the landscaping. In other areas, you might want to add a bedroom or a bathroom or rehab a kitchen, right? This is another thing that can be really helpful to talk to your agent about, because they'll understand specifically what things are driving value and driving appreciation in your specific market. So you definitely want to know that. So we're going to, in a minute, just walk through how to analyze a deal. But remember, everyone, Don't get discouraged if you're looking at a lot of deals. 99% of properties out there are not good deals for real estate investors. They might be great for home buyers. They might be great for someone who has a different investing strategy. But for you, if you're considering the BRRRR strategy, you have to remember that they're not just a dime a dozen. You have to go out, do the work, analyze 10 deals, analyze 20 deals, analyze 50 deals before you find the right one to pull the trigger on. And if you have not analyzed a lot of deals before in the past, it may feel very intimidating to analyze one deal, let alone 50 deals. But I'm going to just show you how, using the right tools like the BiggerPockets BRRRR calculator, you can analyze these deals relatively quickly and very confidently. All right, so I'm going to pop out of this presentation quickly and just go over to the BiggerPockets BRRRR calculator. Hopefully you guys can see this here. All right, and if you want to follow along or find this after the webinar, when you're on the BiggerPockets website, just click this tools thing here and then hit BRRRR. And this is going to take you to this web page and then hit start a new report. So first things first, we have to identify a property. I found one before this webinar started in Indianapolis, very hot market. It's a 3-bed, 1.5 bath. 1,300 square feet, and it is on the market for just under $118,000. So what I'm going to do is copy and paste the address into the BRRRR calculator. I'm going to type this webinar demo, title this report. You can title it whatever you want. All right, so first thing, I'm just going to copy and paste my address into the BRRRR calculator. And then I'm going to put in my annual property taxes, which it shows right here on the listing that I have at $1,237. So I'll just put that in right here. Next, I'm going to add a photo. You don't have to do this. I like to do it just because it helps me remember all the properties I'm looking at. Because if you're analyzing 20 deals, you might not remember the addresses. For me, at least personally, I find it easier to look at pictures. I'm going to hit next step and we're moving right along. Purchase price, again, was $117,900, right? And then our after repair value. This is something that you have to get good at. Talk to your agent about this and look at comps around here. But I'm going to just estimate, guys, that our after repair value here is going to be $160,000. So we're going to take it from 118 to 160, and it's going to cost us, I don't know, let's say $20,000. I just want you to know, guys, I'm making this up. I don't know anything about this property. I'm just showing you how to analyze these deals. It's going to be up to you to figure out the right inputs for these calculators. But if you do get stuck on the inputs here, you can just click these little buttons here. So right where it says, has this little they call them a tooltip, but it's just this question mark. It can tell you what this is asking and how to estimate them if you don't already know. So if you're curious about how to estimate after repair value, don't worry, we got you covered. Tons of resources on BiggerPockets on estimating ARV and what to do there. For our closing costs, I'm going to put $4,000 here. I know that, but again, there are tooltips here that can tell you how to do that. Next, we're going to do our purchase loan. And remember, with a BRRRR, there are two different loans that you're going to do. First is your purchase, then you're going to refinance. So for our purchase loan, we're going to put down 20%. And I'm going to put my interest rate at 7%. That's about what things are these days. I'm going to wrap my loan fees into my loan. I like that. That means I pay it every single month instead of upfront cash. And I'm going to do a regular loan, not an interest-only loan. And I'm going to not have any primary mortgage insurance. You can talk to a lender about if you need to factor those things in. Amortize after over how many years is 30 years. And then we're going to refinance after 12 months. So that's just going to be our estimate. And we're going to say that our rehab is going to take us 3 months to complete. Next, we're moving on to our refinance loan. So that's the second loan. And that's sort of the key to the BRRRR here, is to know what your refinance is going to be. So I'm going to put a refinance loan at $120,000, right? Because my estimated value is now $160,000. But because I'm an investor, I need to keep some money in. So I'm keeping 25% down, which is $40,000, meaning that the loan I need to take out is $120,000. I'm going to have the same interest rate. I don't know. They could change in this time. But for right now, what I know is that they're about 7%. So I'm going to use that. And again, I'm going to use a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, and my cap rate is 6%. Next step, we move on to income, which is total monthly rent. Now, this is an area where I think a lot of people get hung up on, is like, how much can I rent this out for? Well, luckily, BiggerPockets has another tool for you. It's called the Rent Estimator. If you just go to this tools button again in the navigation bar and hit Rent Estimator, you can pull it up. And you can see that the median rent in this area is $1,275. Now, something you need to do with the BRRRR is figure out where in this distribution of rents yours fits, right? This is what this little graph is called. It's called the distribution, because you have to ask yourself, is your property the middle? Like, is it an average property? Is it going to be below average? Is it above average? If it's perfectly average, use the median rent here at $1,275. But for a BRRRR, often what your strategy is to make this a really good rental that people are going to want. And so you may think that you're maybe at the 75th percentile of rent or the 90th percentile. I don't ever like to assume that I'm going to get maximum possible rent. That's a little risky for me. I'm going to say for this property, because we're putting money into it and making it better, that we're going to get 70th percentile or 75th percentile rent, which is about $1,450. So I'm going to go back to our calculator here and put in $1,450 a month in rent. And that's our only monthly income. Next, we moved on to fixed expenses, which I'm mostly going to skip because this is a single family home. So the tenant's going to pay for electricity, water, garbage, HOAs. The only thing that we're going to pay for as the landlord here is insurance, which is going to come out to $100 a month. And we already put in our tax. So we're flying through this, guys. Hopefully you can see how easy this is to analyze these deals when you have a tool like this calculator. We do have to just put in our last two things here, which are variable landlord expenses and future assumptions. Variable expenses are things that you don't really know when they're going to come up, but they're going to come up. These are things like vacancy, repairs, and maintenance. And so you have to set aside some money to make sure you have that for these eventualities. Vacancies, I like to put 8% because that's about 1 month of vacancy per year. Hopefully you're going to get less than that, but I like to just be careful. So that's what I put that there. Next, for repairs and maintenance, I'm going to put 5%, and capital expenditures, which is similar to repairs and maintenance, but it's treated differently by the IRS. These are things like adding a bedroom or improving the property in some way, or for big expenses like a roof, an HVAC system, they are treated differently, so you have to put them differently. I'm going to put 5% in here. And I think, if you're buying an old property and not renovating it, you probably want to put higher money for capital expenditures. But the reason I'm only putting 5% here is because the BRRRR method means that I'm doing a lot of capital expenditures up front, right? That is part of my estimated rehab costs that I'm already paying for. So I said I'm putting $20,000 into this property. So my expectation for future capital expenditures can go down a little bit. Hopefully that makes sense. Last thing here is management fees. I'm an out-of-state investor and I pay about 8% for a property manager. So I'm going to put that in here too. Last things, let's put in future assumptions. What do we think our rent's going to grow at? I'm going to put 3%. That's about the average. Property value, I'm going to put 2%. You can put higher, but I like to be conservative in my underwriting and deal analysis. So I'm going to put 2% here. Expense growth is also going to be 2%. And sales expenditures, like what we're going to have to pay to get the property up to the right condition, what we're going to pay in commissions to sell our property, I'm going to put 6%. And that's it. We've done it. I've been talking this whole time and we still did this deal analysis in probably 5-6 minutes. So hopefully you can see once you practice this a little bit, you're going to be able to do these types of deal analysis in just a couple of minutes. So doing 20 analyses or 50 analyses isn't that intimidating. All right, so now I can see the results and this looks to me like a pretty good deal. And one of the cool things about this calculator is you can actually look at the different stages of your deal. Like what are your returns during the rehab period, which is probably a time you're losing money. You're not renting it out. You're spending money up front to rehab it. So that's okay. Then we have the initial rental period, which for us is going to be about 9 months. Remember, we said that we're going to do the rehab in 3 months, and then we're going to refinance after 12. So for those first couple of months, we're going to be getting a great cash on cash return of 6% and monthly cash flow of $242. So if you wanted to, you could just call it quits there and say, look, I've got a cash flowing deal. I'm going to keep my deal in. That's a great strategy. Or you can move on to this refinance stage. So remember with the refinance, what you're doing is pulling money out and getting a loan at a higher value. So that means that the loan amount that you're borrowing is actually going to go up That means your mortgage payments are going to go up, and that means your cash on cash return is going to go down. So in this example, we go from a 6% cash on cash return to about a 4% cash on cash return. So that's the decision that you have to make. Is it worth making less cash flow to be able to take tens of thousands of dollars out of this deal and use it for a future deal? That's up to you, but that's sort of the strategy with BRRRR. For me, I would do that because going from a 6% to a 4% cash on cash return is not such a big difference. I'm still generating positive cash flow in a great deal that I've now set up for a good long-term hold period. And I'm going to take my money out and invest it into a future deal. That is the beauty of BRRRR. So you can see in this calculator all this great information. You can see if you held on to it for 10 years that you would earn huge profits of $57,000 and a annualized total return of 14%. Which is great. That's what I mean when I'm saying with BRRRR that you get, cash flow, you get value add, you get appreciation. A 14% annualized return is fantastic. Just for the record, the stock market earns about 8%. If you know anything about compounding, 14% versus 8% over the long run is worth probably millions and millions and millions of dollars when you get to your retirement age. The last thing I want to show you before we get out of here is something where you can download this PDF. So if you click this here, it will give you a really professionalized report of what your analysis told you on the previous page. So it shows all this stuff in a really digestible way. So if you're going to share this with a partner or a spouse before you go out and invest, or potentially with a lender to try and talk to them about getting a loan, you can use this document to show that you know how to analyze deals. You've done it in a super professional way. They can review the assumptions and inputs that you put into your deal analysis, and they can say, hey, look, this is actually a good deal, or this is not a good deal, but it can really easily summarize it. So don't forget to use this in some of your conversations when working with partners. So hopefully you can see that if you use the right tools, deal analysis is actually something you can learn and start practicing right now. And again, practice is really important because you need to do a lot of these deals. You need to get in reps to be able to find the right deal for you. So highly recommend you start learning how to do that deal analysis soon. This brings us to our third step. And just to remind you, we talked about step one was finding the deals using either off-market strategies or an investor-friendly agent. The second step is how to analyze deals using tools like our BRRRR calculator. And step three is funding those deals. Remember, we were talking about surveys before. Our surveys actually show that funding deals is the number one challenge that people have in buying real estate. And that makes sense. It can be intimidating if you've never done it. But before we get into the specifics of where to find a loan, I just want to share like a concept with you that I think a lot of newer investors don't understand. It's that with the right property and the right network, funding deals becomes a lot less stressful, right? Because we did these steps for finding your next BRRRR deal in a very specific order. We talked about finding a deal first, then analyzing a deal, and the third step is funding a deal. And this is because once you know that you have a great deal lined up, people are going to be much more willing to lend you money to go out and buy it. Just think about this for a second. Imagine I own a bank, we'll call it Dave Bank, and you come to me and say, hey, Dave Bank, will you lend me a mortgage for my next BRRRR? And I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll consider that. What property are you going to buy? And if you say, oh, I don't know, I just want to go buy some real estate, I would say, no, like, I don't know whether that's a risky loan. I don't know if you know what you're doing. In contrast, if you came to me and said, hey, Dave Bank, I have this professional PDF. I've found a great deal. It's returning this cash on cash return. Here are all of the assumptions that I've made. I've professionally analyzed this deal. Are you interested? And me, as the loan officer or the bank, would say, okay, now I'm going to take you very seriously as a borrower, and I will very thoroughly consider you for a mortgage, right? Doesn't that make sense that you have to find the asset that you're borrowing against before you can go out and find deals? So hopefully this makes sense. And you know that this is the key to finding deals, but you're probably wondering, okay, I found a great deal. I've analyzed it. How do I actually go out and find a lender who can work with me? Because as we talked about, a lot of the challenges with BRRRR have to do with the loan. And so finding a lender is particularly important with the BRRRR strategy. Well, luckily, again, BiggerPockets makes tools for you guys. We have the lender finder. Just go to biggerpockets.com/lenders, and for free, You are going to get matched with an investor-friendly agent. Again, you enter your location, a bit of information about what you're looking to buy, and you can get matched for free with a lender who can help you with your next BRRRR. So that's it, guys. Hopefully you can see this is not super complicated. You just need to find deals. You analyze deals, you fund deals, and that's how you use BRRRR to start your financial freedom journey. Now, at this point, I want to ask you guys two big questions. Number one, do you understand how BRRRR can supercharge your investing journey? Can you see how powerful the strategy of recycling your money can be? And number two, do you believe that if you have the commitment, the knowledge, and the right tools, you can reach your investing goals? You can learn all the strategies, find the right tools. That is important. But ultimately, it really is up to you to actually just start doing these things. I can teach you these things, but ultimately, you have to go out and execute on them. Jim Rohn said, if you really want to do something, you'll find a way. If you don't, you'll find an excuse. So just ask yourself if this is something you really want to do and if you're going to find a way. And I know that even if you are committed and even if you learn these tactics, that real estate investing can feel intimidating. It can feel like jumping off a cliff for those who are new, but that's really not what it's like. It's actually more like hiking and going on a walk with friends. It's a well-worn path with people who have walked this path before and who are willing to help you and teach you how to do it. So hopefully you can see that this is not something so scary that you have to do alone. Now, I don't know why all of you came here to watch this webinar today. Perhaps you're tired of working your full-time job. Maybe you want to prepare for future retirement, or you're tired of being an entrepreneur, always having ideas to start businesses and never actually pulling the trigger. But here's what I do know. I know that real estate investing, it really does work if you're willing to put in the time. I know this because I have seen so many people succeed in real estate investing just by being committed to it. I also know that our goal here at BiggerPockets is to help you reach your financial goals through real estate investing. And we have created incredible tools that can help you get there faster and with less inefficiency, less pain. You can absolutely do this. And the way that we do this, that we've packaged all the tools that can help you reach financial freedom faster into our subscription. It's called BiggerPockets Pro. Pro is basically designed to be your one-stop shop to start, scale, and manage your entire portfolio. And if you're wondering how can one subscription do all of that, let me quickly explain to you the benefits of Pro. First and foremost, you get the best deal analysis tools on the market. I am sort of a deal analysis guy. I wrote an entire book about it, and I use these calculators. I use the rent estimator tool to do my deal analysis. And if you want access to the tools that pros are using, you can get that through the Pro subscription. Second is you get access to amazing education. You get exclusive live webinars. This one is available to anyone, but we have Pro-only webinars and workshops. I host a lot of them. They're very fun, very engaging deep dives where I promise you, you're going to learn a lot. You also get access and 50% off, which is such a good deal, to our investing boot camps, where you can learn one-on-one and have real face-to-face live interactions with some of the best investors in the industry. These are people like Ashley Kerr, Matt Faircloth, Henry Washington, and more. Third, Pro gets you access to the serious community within BiggerPockets, so you get to participate in the exclusive Pro-only forums where our most experienced investors hang out and are talking about their deals. And you get our Pro Profile badge, which our data shows us gets you 3 times more connections than free members. And as you know, real estate investing is really a relationship business. Pro's a great way to start building more relationships. And then lastly, we've built this whole landlord command center. So it's basically all the software, all the documents you need to be a successful investor. So for example, if you need property management software, which everyone uses, you can get that for free as a Pro member using RentReady. That's a $240 value. Or you can get portfolio monitoring and accounting software for free from Stessa. If you want leases, pet addendums, all the legal stuff that you need to be a landlord, we give it to you, all 50 states. So no matter what state you're in, you're going to have lawyer-approved documents as a part of Pro. That alone is just worth thousands of dollars, guys, and you're going to get that as part of Pro. So just as an overview, you get analysis tools, you get exclusive education, you get exclusive network and the landlord command center, and it can be tax deductible too, which is just a little cherry on top for Pro. You can take it from me, but also take it from the tens of thousands of Pro members who are using this to build financial freedom. Aaron C. says, there's no way I can analyze the volume of properties I do without being a Pro member. or Beth, who says it's the foundation of her real estate investing endeavor. Jackie says it's a small cost for something so valuable. And hopefully you can see we have been doing this for a long time. Pro's been around for, 10 or 12 years, and it has helped so many people. And if you're wondering how much all this costs, if you added up all the individual components of Pro, it would actually come out to more than $5,000. And that's actually worth it if you did just one BRRRR deal, because you'd make more than $5,000 in a successful deal. But that is a really big investment. And that's not what we're about at BiggerPockets. Our mission at BiggerPockets is to make real estate investing accessible to most ordinary Americans. And so we price Pro at a much more reasonable $468 a year for all of that stuff that I was just talking about. But I'll give you a hint. If you actually pay annually instead of monthly, we drop that price down to $390. And just for attending today's webinar, we're going to give you an even better deal of knocking 20% off that. So if you go Pro annual today, you'll pay just $312 for all the incredible benefits that Pro has to offer. Now, we are feeling extra generous recently at BiggerPockets, and so we've developed a couple bonuses for those of you who are willing to go Pro annual today, because we want you to get started and take action immediately, because momentum is so important in real estate investing, and we want to give you a little boost. So here it is. First, we're going to give you the Show Me the Money Starter Pack. $470 in value. It includes an ebook on eliminating debt and repairing credit. We're going to give you a 9-hour no and low money down workshop and worksheets to build a pillar of wealth. That's worth $470 right there. We also have a new bonus that I've developed called Demystifying the Housing Market. I know things are a bit confusing right now, but once you have my guide to how to invest in a changing economy, my videos on investing in certain economies and building scenario plans, and my 2024 State of Real Estate Investing report, I promise you're going to feel a lot better about how to navigate today's market. That's a $529 value right there. Lastly, I think this is actually my favorite bonus. It's the ACE Year Analysis Toolkit. As you know, I'm a numbers guy. I wrote the book, Real Estate by the Numbers, and you can get it for free if you go Pro today. I wrote this book with Jay Scott, and we both are just of the belief that anyone can be a successful investor if you learn how to analyze deals well. And so you're going to get my book that will help you with that. You'll get some Excel files and videos that I've created to make sure that you really feel confident in your deal analysis. Again, that's a $229 value. So obviously, this is a great deal. This is honestly the best deal that we ever offer on Pro. All of these amazing things. Plus, if you don't like Pro, within 30 days, we'll give you your money back. No questions asked. We want people to go Pro if they're really using this stuff and going out and investing and doing deals. But if you're not going to invest and not going to use these tools, we'll give you your money back. Just let us know. All right. So that's what we got, guys. Just as a reminder, BiggerPockets Pro, this is worth thousands and thousands of dollars, but our mission at BiggerPockets is to make this accessible to you. And so for just $312, you can go Pro today using the code YTBUY24. That's YTBUY24. And you just go to biggerpockets.com/pro and enter in that code, and you'll get the 20% off, and you'll get all those extra bonuses, the Show Me Your Money Starter Pack, Demystifying the Housing Market Bundle, and the ACE Year Analysis Toolkit. Thank you guys so much for listening to this. I hope you enjoyed the webinar and see that BRRRR is a really powerful method that you can use to grow your portfolio. Yes, there are risks to the BRRRR method, as we talked about, but once you know what those risks are, you can successfully navigate around them. And I hope I've shown you how you can start to do that. We've also talked about how to find deals, how to analyze deals, and how to fund deals. And they're not so hard if you have the right tools, you have the right education, and you have the right network. As a reminder, if you do want to supercharge and speed up your building of your portfolio, BiggerPockets Pro was built to do that. You can go Pro today at biggerpockets.com/pro. Make sure to enter the code I listed before. It's YTBUY24. That's YTBUY24. That's going to get you all the extra bonuses that we have for you today. Thanks so much for listening. Again, my name's Dave Meyer. If you have any questions for me, any feedback for me, you can always find me on BiggerPockets. I am always there. See you guys soon around the community.